It's the 60O podcast presented by Men's Sports. I'm joined on the phone by Damien Seibold. Seibs, how are you, mate?
I am good, mate.
I'm going to ask you the question that I've been thinking about the past 24 hours. Can the Knights make a prelim?
Yeah, they can. 100% they can. The way Callum Ponga's playing, mate, he's outstanding.
How have they done this? How have they gone from a team that was, in almost coach-sacking territory about 10 weeks ago to now being a genuine sort of... Well, they're in the top 4 teams in the comp. I've got no question about it.
Oh, I agree, mate. I think they are one of the best 4 teams in the comp. And for mine, it's really simple. The bloke we just spoke about, he is finally playing up to his potential week in, week out. He is so consistent at the moment. So people are, raving about Reece Walsh, and so they should. Reece Walsh is a star. He's an absolute stud of a footballer. And, I think that the sky for him is the limit. Like, there's, he is so good it's not funny. Callum Ponga is better than him. Okay, and at the moment I'm saying he's better than him because every week he plays exactly the same way. He is outstanding. His errors are gone. They're completely gone from his game. So that's how a team can go from being in coach-sacking territory to best 4 teams in the comp. One bloke with the ability of Callum Ponga. We've seen it plenty of times, when Latrell runs hot, when Tommy Turbo runs hot, when Mitch Moses runs hot. They're the types of players that can carry a team on their back and take them to, being one of the top 2-4 teams in the comp. And that's what he's doing.
No Jackson Hastings yesterday against South Sydney, and we'll get on to South in a minute, but I just want to focus on Newcastle at the moment. But to get that win without Jackson Hastings, and in the manner that they did it, they're doing a lot of things right off the ball. And you mentioned Ponga there. Of course, he's outstanding, but it seems to me that they're not relying on him to just carry them. Everyone's putting in this effort of a team.
And that's why he is carrying them, because they're not relying on him to carry them, if that makes sense. I know it might be a strange statement,
yep.
Because at the end of the day, mate, if he gets injured, they don't win. They don't win a game.
Yeah.
So, and I know that there was a lot of talk about Jackson Hastings and how much he was going to be missed. But if we look back at the last 8 to 10 weeks of Knights footy, Jackson Hastings isn't starring. He's just doing his job. So the whole team are doing their job, and they're allowing Ponga to be great, which is what he is at the moment. That and Bradman Best as well, with the ability that Ponga has at the moment to break the game wide open. It's then attracting more defenders, which then gives Bradman Best a little bit more space, and he's living up to his potential at the moment as well, finally.
Yeah, he certainly is. He's turned into one of, if not the best centre in the game at the moment, Bradman Best. Certainly the form centre, and his defence is outstanding, isn't it?
It is. It's great. And we spoke about it around Origin time. A lot of journos write a story, and look, you know as well as I do that there's not always a great deal of truth that goes into those stories. It's what's the hot topic at the moment, and they'll grab something and they'll run with it. And for a lot of the first 8 weeks, the hot story was Campbell Graham, best centre in the comp, best defensive centre in the comp. All you need to do is have a little look at his stats and study some of his games, and that's far from the truth. He misses a lot of tackles. I'm a big Campbell Graham fan, and I think he will play Origin, and he's already played for Australia, and he'll play a lot more for Australia as well. He's a star. But what I'm saying is, players tend to get hyped up, and they get hyped up really, really quickly. Quite often, there's not a great deal of fact-finding that goes behind it, or a lot of truth to it. It's just, this is what seems to be hot at the moment. When you dug deep into the Bradman Best stats at that time of the year as well, it surprised both of us that he was the best defensive centre in the comp statistically by a long, long way, which, it surprised us.
You're right.
But at that year, the other stat that we found was that the Knights on their left had conceded the least amount of tries. So the Knights' left edge, even when they weren't going well, had conceded the least amount of tries in the whole comp. And that was when they were coming 12 from 13.
There's one stat about the Knights that really sticks out to me. They've only conceded 7 tries all year off a kick.
Yeah,
It's
that's
it's pretty remarkable, isn't it? Like that. That's not just a fluke, is it? Like that's proper good defense.
yeah, and I don't put them up with the Panthers, Broncos, Warriors just yet, but they are dead set in my mind. They're the fourth best team.
Yeah. Well, how about this? Like, I don't put them in the same class as Penrith defensively, obviously, but they're a situationally defensively great team, if that makes sense. So in their own red zone, very hard to crack.
Well, that's right, mate. And then they frustrate teams. But let's not get too carried away. And I know we're about to talk about it. You're only as good as who you play. And the last few weeks, they haven't played good side. I mean, they destroyed the Dogs. The Dogs are woeful. The week before that, they fixed up. They just got home, against the Dolphins. The Dolphins they're gone. They've been treading water for weeks. And the week before that, I'm sure we'll all agree that the Raiders aren't a good footy side, and they smashed the Raiders. Then we fast forward to Sunday. Rabbits aren't good. They are not good at all. But full credit to Knights, they got the job done, and they did it well.
Well, we'll talk about South now. I wrote about this in the paper. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about the South win over the Tigers, and that was Latrell's first game back. And Latrell dead set carried them that day to a win. If he doesn't play, they don't win. So that's how good he was that day. But I just want to say this. Latrell was spotted during the week at a Luke Combs concert, and he got up in the middle of the concert and had a beer with Luke Combs. Now, I don't care about any of that. Like, free country, you can do what you want. But it certainly isn't a good look, Siebes, when he turns around on the weekend in what really is a must-win game, and he plays, I would say, the worst game of his career.
I would agree. It was the worst game he's ever played. The one bit of positivity or bit of credit that we need to give Latrell, it wasn't because he wasn't having a crack. He had a red-hot crack yesterday. He was just bad. So that's, we need to make sure that we are paying credit where credit's due, because a lot of the time he cops a bad rap, and rightly so, because he doesn't always keep himself in the contest. And he did try his guts out yesterday. But he was terrible. The amount of mistakes he made was just off the chart. I think if they win yesterday, he has a half-decent game. No one even mentions the Luke Combs going beer on.
Of course.
But he's a 20-year-old man. We're adults, we're men. Who doesn't like to have the odd beer during the week? These blokes, they're professional athletes. I'm sure they would have the odd beer at times during the week. So that's, I'm neither here nor there. It's just the look of it, getting up on stage, sculling, Souths are going terrible, and then to turn up on Sunday and, as you said, have probably the worst game he's ever played. All of that aside, the thing that disappointed me the most about Latrell on Sunday or yesterday afternoon was the petulant behaviour and the game was gone. There was a minute to go, so he just goes to try and elbow Tyson Frizzell's head off. Why?
Well,
what's the point?
Let's call a spade a spade. It was a grub act.
Of course it was.
Yep.
Of course it was. And it's not the first time he's done it. And I love Latrell. I reckon he's great.
Yep.
But that was rubbish. Like, it was something that you would expect from the late 70s, early 80s. If you did that to someone in the street, you'd be locked up. And I know that talk about that argument, like, people will jump on me, whatever. It's not on the street, it's in the confines of a rugby league field, which makes it even worse.
Yep.
It's and the NRL only giving him 1 week, please.
Yep. Well, he's going to fight it, and
There's no way on earth he gets off that. He looks at him, he bites down on his mouth guard, he aims, and then it loads up. And the fact that he didn't make contact properly, that's just luck for Frizzell.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's sure.
So South have a bye this week, and then they play the Roosters. Unfortunately for South, the Roosters and the Cowboys play two teams who they both should beat, and then I think it all is going to come down to that Roosters-South game to see who makes the top 8 out of those two teams. I don't think the Cowboys will make it, but it'll come down to the Roosters-South game. But with South, the way they're going at the moment, the bye came at the right time, but no Latrell just cancels all that out.
Yeah, it does. It does, mate. I mean, none of those teams, Cowboys, South, South or Roosters, but they don't deserve to make the finals. One of them is going to.
Yep.
Who's your tip? Out of those three, who makes
I think the Roosters. Well, I'd strongly favour the Roosters at the moment. And the South with no Latrell, I just cannot... And South have a pretty good record over the Roosters in recent times, but no Latrell and the way that they're going at the moment, like, I thought Damien Cook was really good yesterday, but apart from him, he was a lone soldier in a group of people who started off the season 8-3. They were premiership favourites at one stage. Heading into Origin, they were 8-3. Since then, they've gone 4-8.
You want my tip of the year?
Yes.
At $5.10, the Tigers beat the Roosters this week.
That would just throw a spanner in the works.
It's feel free to give it to me next week when it's wrong. But that's my tip of the year. No Teddy. If Sam Walker comes back, it's just absolutely ridiculous because Drew Hutchinson's been really, really good for him. He's steering the ship around. He's a traditional half, and he's freeing up Luke Keary to play footy that Luke Keary can play. So early, without knowing what teams are going to be, I could throw 20 on the Tigers at 5-10.
The other game I want to talk about is the Melbourne game. Melbourne have had games this year against the Bulldogs, the Titans, the Cowboys, and the Dragons now. And that's just what I can think of off the top of my head, where they've gone out heavy favourites, 14-plus point favourites. And I know that they got the win over the Dragons, but they lost every single one of those other games. And in the end, their attack wasn't a problem. They scored a lot of points. It's just that they conceded points like a sieve. Their defensive issues against these woeful teams, surely it's just a complacency thing.
Yeah, which is strange. It was something that you would never expect or even contemplate saying about a Melbourne side, that they're complacent. But I don't know what it is, because like you said, they're conceding way too many points against teams that struggle to score at times. And I don't know. I just think any team that's got Cameron Munster in it, they're a chance of winning any game. So they're going to make the finals. All he needs to do is do Cameron Munster things, and they win whatever game they're playing. But I don't think they're very good.
They get Ryan Pappenhausen back this week. He's tipped to be named in the 17 for Melbourne. Coming off the bench, how much would it add defensively to the team? Because I don't think attack's the problem.
Yeah, it could. Well, I don't think we can expect miracles in attack straight away either. I mean, it's going to be his third game, fourth game back, so he's still going to be finding his feet. I don't know what Nick Meaney's like as a organiser from the back, so I can't comment too much on whether it's going to improve it. From what I understand, Pappenhausen is a pretty handy organiser of the defensive line, so he may help out in that respect, but I think it's a little bit unknown at the moment. And what you got to remember is that it's not like Meaney filled in for 5 weeks. He's been doing it for over a year, and he has Billy Slater, at his beck and call to help him with his defensive splits and organising the side. And Meaney's a good footballer, and he's improving out of sight. So that tells me that he can learn, and he takes on things that he's been taught. So I don't know.
Seibs, we'll take a quick break and be back with the topic that we've avoided all podcasts, and that is the Manly Seagulls. 6 to Go is proudly supported by our friends at Mint Sports. And if you're after a bit of humour in your sports life, maybe try out one of their podcasts, maybe daily.
To baseball. So they had the All-Star weekend this week to break things up. Yeah, that should break it up. That should break up the 182-game season. More baseball. Guys, there's a lot of baseball going on. How do we break it up? You want to have another hit? Sure. Sounds good. Everyone gets a week off. Awesome. I haven't seen Dad in 7 months. Oh, no. He's got to play in the All-Star game. Everyone else gets the week off. The baseballers have to keep playing.
Back with the 6 to Go podcast presented by Mint Sports. On to the top 5 now. We're going to do our top 5 most disappointing teams for 2023. And Seibs, this is funny because we could look like a goose at the end of this, because one of these teams could win a premiership, because one of them is still in contention, that's for sure.
They could. They won't, but they could.
All right, here we go. Number 5, who you got?
Number 5, I've got a slashy. I can't split the Dogs and Tigers. There's so much promise, so much goodwill being spoken about and written about, but they're both just, they're yuck. They haven't improved. The Dogs are, with their roster, they should be in that group of 6 teams that up until the weekend just gone were a chance of still making the 8, and then they're nowhere near it. So they're there, and the Tigers haven't improved one bit. And they've already then had another coach get punted. So, yeah, that's a flashy for me.
The Dogs for me, you bring in Kickow. No, Kickow was injured, but every team has injuries. You bring in Reid Marnie, one of the premier 9s in the comp. You'd think that they would get a little bit better, but they really haven't. So the Dogs for me at number 5. Who you got it for?
Just on the Dogs, before we jump into 4, I reckon blokes like Matt Burton and Reid Marnie have actually gone backwards.
I'd agree. I think Matt Burton is actually... I've thought about this a lot. I think he's a centre.
Of course he is. Yeah. He's a centre that could fill in and do a handy job at fullback or in the halves when your regular fullback or half is out. But he's an out-and-out centre, and he's a great centre.
I am surprised that they haven't done the fullback experiment with Matt Burton, but yes, certainly a centre for me. Your number 4?
Number 4 for me, it hurts, but it's Parramatta. So for me, the only reason they're not higher is based on roster. So Parra should have made the 8. They've fallen short, regardless of who they've got there. But if you look at the quality players that they've lost from that grand final side last year, Reid Marnie, Isaiah Papali'i, just to name 2, and they're 2 guys that were stars last year for them. They didn't have a stronger roster, but they've certainly been very disappointing, and it upsets me deeply.
No, number 4 for me is the Cowboys. They built so much goodwill last season, being as fit as they were and just outlasting teams a lot of the time last year. And then to come out of the block so slowly this year and just put themselves in such a hole, they had to win 7 or 8 in a row, and they're still not probably going to make finals. So Cows for me. So who you got at 3?
I have got the Cowboys at 3, and the reason why they're ahead of Para is I'm going to name some blokes for you. Scott Drinkwater, Belungi, Valentine Holmes, Tom Dearden, Reece Robson, Taumalolo, which is an exception, but Taumalolo, Jeremiah Nanai, Ruben Cotter, Colin Hess. What have they all got in common?
They would have played most games.
They've played Origin, all of them. All of them have played. And when you throw Taumalolo as being, a test captain, that is a squad that should be pushing for the top 4 every single year. And everything you said before, I agree with. They don't look as fit as last year, and they're my number 3 most disappointing side.
I got Parramatta at 3. I just think every member of Parramatta has shot themselves in the foot at some stage this season, and it started in the preseason when Ryan Madison took the suspension over the fine. That's how far we're going back here. But look, certainly a disappointing campaign for both the Eels and the Cowboys. Who you got at 2?
2 is the Rabbitohs. They're just not playing good footy. They've gone backwards a long way. Their attack doesn't look anywhere near as good as it normally does. Things look disjointed. They're leaking really soft tries that they wouldn't leak in the past. Even when they had those patches where they didn't care if team scored 30, they were going to score 32. They became a really good defensive side at different times over the last 5-6 years. And they're not at the moment, so they're 2 for me.
Yeah, the Rabbitohs are probably in the bottom 4 or 5 teams at the moment, and to say that they could be a part of this list after being 8-3 is quite remarkable, isn't it? But that's where we are at the moment. At 2, I've got the Tigers. Look, you bring in Papali'i, you bring in Clemmer, you bring in Api Coruscant, that transforms your forward line. Another year with Stefano, he's meant to be the next big thing, and you unlock Jareen Buller, and you're still only winning 4 games for the year. That's pretty ordinary, in my opinion. You punt another coach because, of course, the coaches are the problem. So, yes, the Tigers are it for me. I think we both might have the number 1, though.
They would be it. the Roosters.
Yep.
Yeah. So the Roosters are, well, I think they were a lot of good judges, premiership favourites. 99% of people who know anything about footy had them making the top 4. So the fact that they will need, they need luck, things to go their way, win their last 2 games just to be a chance of making the finals, it's not good enough.
Yeah, they've got 2 Golden Boot winners. They've got the New Zealand Test 9. They've got a star-studded forward pack, star outside backs. They're meant to have the next big thing in Joseph Suoli'i, and to not be in the top 8 at all for the year, really. Like, I don't think they've spent a week inside the top 8. So it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy, mate. Like, and especially when you think of things like, again, I'll be real quick with this, but the blokes I'm about to name have won positional Daily M awards over the last 5 or 6 years. So Tedesco, Tupou, Manu, Kiri, Brandon Smith.
Maria Hargreaves would be there.
Okay. Yeah, exactly right.
And I think the world of Nat Butcher, Angus Crichton.
Crichton's a kangaroo.
Yep.
So Victor Radley, he's deteriorated a fair bit, to be honest, but Victor Radley has been one of the best locks in the game for the last few years.
Yep. He looks like a shell of himself now. He's scared of the judiciary, Victor Radley.
Yeah, he's scared of the judiciary, and I don't know, he looks like someone who's overthinking everything as well. Even with the footy, he seems to have the fumbles a little bit now and not making the right decision with his passing game. He just needs a bit of confidence back, Victor. He's too good to not play well.
Yeah, we'll do our top 5 most impressive teams compared to preseason standards next week. But to finish off, we'll talk about the big topic of the week, and that was the Manly Seagulls lost to the Warriors. Really brave, Manly was, and in the end, they got a dud call.
Of course they did, and I don't want people to think I'm just saying it because it's the team of brother coaches, but that was so strange. I was sitting at a rugby league dinner on Friday night, so there was people who know a bit about footy and at least play a lot and watch a lot of footy. So the people at the table, we had the game there, we were watching it. Out of the 10 people at our table, all 10 said, well, that's a penalty straight away. 4 or 5 of the boys that were sitting there actually were talking about 10 in the bin, or is that a send-off? The way he hooked his foot at the last minute and put him in such a dangerous position. One of the boys even threw out, that could even be a send-off. But 50% of the table thought that it was a 10 in the bin, and 100% of the table thought it was a penalty. And I get that, it's not the contesting the bomb rule and you're not jumping in the air, but it's dangerous. It's as simple as that he was put in a dangerous position. That's it. It's cut and dry. It's a penalty.
It's actually the definition of the law. Like, no law needs to be changed. Like, I've seen a report today. Peter V'landys come out and said that they're open to a law change to make sure that's a penalty. Like, it is the law. He put him in a dangerous position.
Simple as that. You tackle someone, you hit someone that hard that they sometimes will, fold in half and come over the top of you and land on the upper part of their back or even head. It's not intentional. They're not lifting, but unfortunately the bloke with footy got put in a dangerous position. So yeah, it's just so it'd be frustrating for Manly, Anthony, all the players involved, because they weren't going to be guaranteed of winning that game, but they should have been in a position to be up by 2 with 10 minutes to go, or 8 minutes to go.
Well, doing this podcast today, I almost had a heart attack when I was calling your number, because I started dialing Anthony's number because you're both next to each other in my phone. So I got very scared very quickly, because I can imagine the frustration he would be feeling. And they're playing for their season, like they're only human. Like they realise what was at stake with that game, and the fact that they were like, I think Anthony said that they've got 8 of their starting 17 out at the moment, and Ruben Garrick's got to be under a question mark, you'd think. So they've got 8 or 9 out of their starting 17, and most notably Tom Trbojevic, who is basically everything, really. And so to be putting up these tough performances against top 4 teams, which, like your brother said, sometimes you need the bounce the ball to go your way, and when you don't get an obvious call like that, oh geez, what do you do?
And I reckon because he was pretty obviously at the shits.
Yeah.
Anyone would have. But I think off the back of feeling frustrated from the week before where they upset the apple cart a little bit. They threw caution to the wind against Penrith, and it was coming off. And then, the Liam Martin knock on, that didn't get called. So there's probably a couple of things that have bubbled along there over the week in the back of his mind. And I actually, I don't think he would have been out of line to go even a little bit harder on Friday night.
Yeah.
But he's a tight ass, so he probably didn't want to pay it.
It's a tough position to be in. I don't envy them whatsoever. Seems that'll just about do it for us today.